Brought to you by DK Audio.
DK Audio presents War, From Ancient Egypt to Iraq by DK, read by Tim Rumboll. Foreword. It is well that war is so terrible. We would grow too fond of it, wrote the great Confederate General Robert E. Lee in 1862, thus neatly encapsulating the two conflicting emotions that war has always stirred in the human breast: repulsion and fascination. War has always been with us as a violent method of resolving disputes. The earliest communities fought each other for control of food and land. But war, in its strictest definition, is the state of armed conflict between nations or states, or between groups within the same state, otherwise known as civil war. The first recorded wars between organized armies were fought by the city-states of Sumer in the 3rd millennium BCE. Since then, states have habitually used war as a means of achieving their political ends when all peaceful options have been exhausted. War, according to the Prussian military theorist Clausewitz, is nothing but the continuation of politics by other means. Scarcely a generation passes in any nation without some exposure to war. Between 1500 BCE and 1860 CE, there were in the known world, on average, 13 years of war to every 1 year of peace. Virtually all frontiers between nations, races, and religions have been established by wars, and most previous civilizations and empires have expired because of them. The history of the world is primarily the history of war. The carnage of the 20th century, 2 world wars, and numerous instances of genocide, and the advent of nuclear weapons, have made conflict between the major powers both undesirable and unthinkable. Yet for some combatants, war has always had its attraction. Comradeship, wrote a US veteran of World War II, reaches its peak in battle. In truth, war brings out the best and worst of people. It mobilizes our resources of love, compassion, courage, and self-sacrifice, but also our capacity for hate, xenophobia, brutality, and revenge. One of the strengths of this impeccably researched, well-written, and beautifully illustrated volume is that it covers more than 5,000 years of warfare, from the Sumerians to the modern day, in such a multifaceted way. It shows how armies were organized and equipped, how battles, campaigns, and wars were won and lost, and how technology has gradually changed the face of battle, from brutal hand-to-hand encounters with axes and swords to the use of impersonal, computer-guided weaponry today. It also looks at war from the perspective of politicians, generals, ordinary soldiers, and civilians, and it charts the attempts, not always successful, to regulate war and make it less brutal. Is there such a thing as a just war? Thomas Aquinas thought so, and those who fought for the Allies in World War II would surely agree. Wars are sometimes a necessary evil, to topple dictators, curb aggression, and protect the weak. If a nation is unwilling to fight in what it believes is a just cause, it will not deter others from going to war. Saul David, 2009. Part 1. War in the Ancient World, 3000 BC to 500 CE. Mesopotamia, Egypt, and China saw the development of complex urban civilizations, whose rulers protected and increased their wealth by conquest and exacting tribute. Their example was followed by the later empires of the Persians, Greeks, and Romans. Whether or not humans should be regarded as warlike by nature, there is substantial archaeological evidence of organized combat in prehistoric times. Fighting between different groups of people was frequent in societies of hunter-gatherers and Stone Age farmers. If some encounters seemed designed to minimize casualties, 2 bands of villagers hurling missiles at one another from a distance, there is also evidence of genocidal warfare, aimed at the extermination of another people, to take over its land and resources. Warring states and empires. As more complex societies developed, they provided the resources for larger...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?